What's up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about champion mod related weapons you should be saving for Witch Queen next season. We don't have a full list of all the weapons that'll have anti-champion mods on them, but we do have a few thanks to one of the recent TWABs that we had. So we're going to have Scout Rifle and Bows be anti-barrier next season, and then Autos and SMGs be Overload among whatever else they may have in the game. Obviously, Glaive is also going to be a champion mod next season, but there are no Glaives in the game right now, so kind of hard to save Glaives when you don't have any. So I'm going to be talking about the best Scout Rifles, Bows, Autos, and SMGs going into next season that you can get right now, in my opinion anyway. So let's get started. No particular order, let's just start out with Autos, and these are not going to be like ranked or anything, so I'm just going to name all the ones that I like, have, or recommend, and whatever may be your preference over the others, there you go. So we're starting with Autos. First recommendation is Tiger's Bite. It drops from the Dreaming City, from the various activities you can do on there. Why I would save it is because its perk pool is pretty good. It has high caliber rounds, as you can see. It has Rook rounds, as Frenzy on it as well. I'm sure you could roll something else if you don't like Surplus. And it's an overall solid auto rifle, one of the few solid auto rifles in the game, it feels like. Definitely a good kinetic option as well. The only really other option I would have for kinetic is probably the 7 SERAPH Carbine, but with Warmind cells, you know, kind of being terrible right now, I wouldn't really go that far. But if you don't want to farm a Tiger's Bite in the Dreaming City, Carbine's probably your best other option for kinetic. Also, there's BRAYTECH Werewolf, but you can't really get this in the game, as far as I know. Currently, it was in the Halloween event, as it always is every year, and it also has high cal Rick rounds. You can roll Vorpal, but if you don't have it already, you can't get it anymore. But if it's collecting dust in your vault and you happen to have a good roll, you could also use this. As I mentioned, 7 SERAPH Carbine is also an alternate option. It also rolls high cal. It can roll Vorpal. It has auto-loading holster. You probably noticed the theme here where all of these auto rifles have high cal. High cal in PvE content is just an extremely useful tool to have in primary weaponry, because you can stagger back your adds, your opponents. Namely in GMs where, they don't fall over from one shot, you can actually use high cal to your advantage to kind of give yourself breathing room with shooting back red bar enemies, like Legionnaires, Vandals, Scions, especially Snipers. Snipers who aim in on you very quickly, you can actually stagger them with high cal and give yourself breathing room to not get one shot. Very helpful. Moving on, there's one more auto rifle that I want to mention for the kinetic slot, and that would be CHROMA Rush. CHROMA Rush is very, very solid. Maybe even a bit underrated, criminally underrated, arguably. It can roll some pretty damn good perks. It has Subsistence, it can roll Rampage. Kill Clip, not PvE related, really, but if you like Kill Clip, you can roll that too. It's just a solid option overall, and probably, I would say, top 2, top 3 auto rifles overall in the game, energy and kinetic, is just a really, really solid choice. And in case you don't know how to get it anymore, it's from Season of the Splicer. You can get it from the Umbral machines over here. So that's that. Carbine, by the way, in case you're wondering, is a Banshee / World Drop. So you can either try to get it at Banshee, good luck, get it as a World Drop, or maybe Zur will sell it one of the weeks leading up to Witch Queen. These last few are just sleeper picks that I thought I'd mention, just in the event that people were curious. Last Breath is also a decent auto rifle to have. It is from the Prophecy Dungeon, the Cube encounter specifically. If you feel up to farming the Cube encounter for one of these, go right ahead. It's a pretty good auto. I wouldn't say it's at the top of the list, but it's still a solid choice. And then you have one more world drop, which is SCATHELOCKE. Also a decent auto, nothing insane, but if you happen to have a good roll in your vault and you happen to like this gun from way, 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 way back in the day, this might be an option for you. As far as energy goes, let's just get the best one out of the way. Gnawing Hunger, I think, is probably the best energy auto currently in the game. It can roll a Rampage and Overflow if you happen to have the curated one from back in the day in Reckoning. Yeah, definitely didn't grind my brains out doing like 200 runs for one of these. It also can roll Tap the Trigger, Demo, Swashbuckler, so it has a bunch of decent good rolls. I also really like it because A, it has an element, in this case Void, and B, it shoots pretty damn fast, and in terms of Nightfall, or I guess GM level content, you want a fast-firing auto to crack those shields immediately, or I guess in next season it'll be to stun Overload champions, assuming they fix how Overloads work with autos and SMGs. So I think Gnawing Hunger is probably my top option as far as energies go, and probably even in that top 3 overall in all autos. Quick shout out to also Reckless Oracle. In terms of Void, I actually don't own one, and I refuse to do Garden of Salvation because but it is also a good option in terms of a Void auto rifle to have if you don't have a Gnawing Hunger. Just wanted to mention that before moving on. Arc Logic. Arc Logic is a weapon you can get from the lectern on the moon, so it is farmable. It can roll Frenzy, which is already a solid thing. It can roll Overflow and Feeding Frenzy if you want to be the weird guy that has Feeding Frenzy on their roll. It is an Arc auto as opposed to Void for Gnawing Hunger, so it's a different element option. 600 RPM, so solid choice there. The other arc choice for this would be Shadow Price. Now, Shadow Price, unfortunately, is a slow-firing auto rifle, and that's probably its #1 weakness, but it does roll some really good perks. You can get it as an Adept. It can roll a Disruption Break, Overflow, Accurized, all that good stuff. You can put Adept big ones on. Like I mentioned, it's the other arc element option as opposed to Arc Logic, but again, fast firing, I would probably prioritize over slow firing, at least when it comes to champions. Also, honorary shout out to the number for an arc option. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it is a decent auto, and it's arc. Wanted to put that in there as well in case people didn't have an Adept Shadow Price and didn't have an Arc Logic that they farmed on the moon. As far as Solar goes, there's really two options in terms of auto rifles. And #1 is definitely the Summoner. And for those of you that don't know, it's actually coming back for Witch Queen with a new perk pool. But if you were a smart hoarder and already have this gun in your vault, it is definitely the top choice in terms of solar auto. Overall, it's also really good, not just for being solar. And then the only other choice, if you do not currently have the Summoner, is Arctic Haze, which you can get from VOUCHSAFE on Europa. It's farmable, so easy access. Not quite as good as Summoner, in my opinion. And just don't look at this roll. This is disgusting. But it is an option. So there you have it. That's it for autos. Let's go to the next weapon. Since we just talked about autos, we might as well talk about SMGs since they will be the Overload counterpart for next season. Honestly, in terms of SMGs, there's nothing really that strong out there. SMGs are probably not my #1 choice for Overload to begin with. I would probably go with a different weapon aside from autos and SMGs unless they're really good after the fix, or just a straight up like ability stun for Overloads. But if you are an SMG lover, I'll give you some recommendations anyway. Starting out with Every Waking Moment, it is a Moon SMG, farmable from the lectern. It can roll high cal, subsistence, and I know people are going to laugh, but Thresh is actually really solid because now that the intellect stat has just been ran over and it takes much longer for you to get your super, something like Thresh can actually be really helpful in you obtaining a super much faster, especially with who knows what Void 3.0 has in store, and you want to get that super as fast as possible. So that's the first SMG on the list. Next up, obviously, there's the old favorite of Eichel's SMG, abused to hell because of Warmind cells. I'm sure this is the go-to for most people just because they happen to have that from the Warmind days in their vault. It's an arc choice, and it's a good one. It's definitely usable in PvE. By the way, I would just say outright, do not use a kinetic SMG for stuff like, let's say, GMs. Kinetic SMGs, for the most part, are just... basically, they just belong in PvP. They're not that good. Maybe there's a hidden gem here and there, but I would recommend always using an energy SMG. So, for Void, I mentioned Every Waking Moment. For Arc, there's Eichel's SMG. SERAPH rounds are solid. Vorpal is solid. And then, for Solar, I think your best choice would probably be Def Adder, given what we currently have in the game right now, unless they bring back more weapons with certain elements. Def Adder is solid. It is now, I believe, currently a world drop, so you would have to get it from Banshee or Zur if he sells it on a given week. So if you're trying to get this, good luck with that. Now I will give a shout out to two more SMGs, one being SHAYURA'S Wrath. It's a PvP SMG, obviously. I'm not going to say it's a PvE weapon, but I will say it can roll insane range, and just for having an insane range and being a Void Element SMG, it has some use in PvE, I believe anyway. Obviously, other SMGs have way better perks when it comes to PvE content, but that doesn't mean you can completely rule this out just because having good range in endgame content is always a plus. Always, always, always a plus. You never want to be super in their face, so I think this is helpful if you are running Overload SMG. And then the other one is going to be Borrowed Time. I think a lot of people really sleep on this SMG just because it's from Gambit, so people are like, I sleep. But Borrowed Time is actually really solid. It has a bunch of good perks it can roll, mainly Overflow Frenzy or Overflow Adrenaline Junkie. It has other rolls it can roll too. I believe Demo is also in the perk tree there somewhere. It can roll ricochet rounds, among other things. And like Adrenaline Junkie, high cal, pretty slept on, especially on a build like Sunbracers, where you can just spam the hell out of your grenades, get instant damage boosts, and well, abuse the gun in PvE like it's intended. But again, that would require you to play Gambit, so have fun with that. So, Scout Rifles, Anti-Barrier, pretty damn strong, probably the second strongest for anti-barriers in the game, aside from having Anti-Barrier Sniper, which I would be shocked if we ever get that back again. That's how good it was. But Scout Rifles, really, really solid for anti-barriers. Obviously, Arbalist exists now, and it kind of just runs over everything. But Particle Deconstruction is going to be gone next season, and RB might not be the damage weapon of choice for that particular slot, and you might want to have a kinetic, you know, Scout Rifle, and then rock certain energy weapons and heavies that might be way better than what RB is this season because of, well, Particle going away. So, I'm going to talk about Scout Rifles anyway. Starting with Night Watch. I'm sure everybody's going to say Night Watch, the best scout in the game, don't add blah, blah, blah. I do think it's really solid, and it's definitely up there, but it is not the best scout in the game. But we'll get there. We'll get there. So, Night Watch, definitely the top choice for kinetic scouts. You just play the new light quest, and you get a god roll. It's insanely easy to get. If you haven't done the new light quest, go do it now. What are you waiting for? Explosive Payload, Overflow. There's also a different role that Zur/Banshee have sold recently that was nutty, so if you got that, that is also solid. Next up is Hung Jury, Adept. Yeah, I know, Hung Jury, not exactly as good as its D1 days, but it still is a solid scout. It's not complete trash. It's not Night Watch. I do say Night Watch is better, but I would use this over most kinetic scouts in the game still, regardless. So that's my number 2 choice for kinetic. And then we got Servant Leader. Again, it's a gambit weapon, so a lot of people are probably snoozing on this, but it is a solid option for kinetic scout. It has a Shoot the Loot Frenzy, which is a unique perk pool that we haven't really had a whole lot of time to mess with. In GMs, it might be really helpful. You know, you kill something at a far distance. There's heavy ammo. You want the heavy ammo. You can use Shoot the Loot. And Frenzy is just the damage perk overall, so that helps too. I think Servant Leader is probably actually going to contend with the number 2 spot ahead of Hung Jury, I'd say. But, yeah, overall, I think it's a solid scout. Those are your top 3 options. For kinetic, let's talk about energy. For energies, let's start off with another sleeper, Vouchsafe. What used to be the best scout in the game, in my opinion, has now taken a backseat, but it is still really, really, really solid. It is a Dreaming City weapon, so you can get this much like Tiger Spy by just doing the Dreaming City activities and getting lucky. And it can roll some pretty nutty perks. It can roll 4 times the Charm, plus Explosive Payload, or Vorpal, both of which are really, really good. Explosive Payload good overall for all enemies, and Vorpal obviously if you're using it for anti-barrier scout. A lot of people seem to just not know this scout even exists, which is kind of ridiculous because it is at the top of the list. Dare I say it even contends over Night Watch, in my opinion. It's also a Void Scout, so obviously Void Shields, that's really helpful as well. Different element option I would give to Eternal Blazon for Arc. The only reason Vouchsafe isn't just the unanimous number 1 scout overall is because it cannot roll high cal, unfortunately. Don't know why, kind of sucks. But yeah, it can't roll high cal, so that's why it's not just at the top of the top. Same thing with Night Watch, really. It can't roll high cal. If it could, it'd probably be number 2 overall for me. But anyway, Eternal Blazon, it can roll high cal, it can roll Overflow, and it can roll Disruption Break. Super solid. Let me tell you, high caliber rounds on scouts, especially in anti-barrier scout season, insane. Just absolutely insane. If you don't know why I'm saying that, go watch my video on scouts with high cal. They just shred through everything. They will snap every red bar's neck pretty much, even in GMs. The only things it doesn't stagger and just break limbs is things like champions and yellow bars. Other than that, high cal scouts are absolute monsters for endgame and are highly recommended to use, which brings me to my number 1 choice overall, Vision of Confluence, aka Vision of Cornflakes, the best scout rifle in the game. Yes, this is not Destiny 1 pre-recorded. This is in fact the best scout in D2. It has literally everything. It has high caliber rounds. It's an element scout. It has rewind rounds, it has disruption break, you can go full auto if you wanted to. It also has Firefly, which is a fan favorite on its own. It even has Thresh if you want to go for more super energy. Hell, you could throw Frenzy on here as well. It has so many nutty perks. And as I mentioned, High Cal just breaks enemies' limbs non-stop. It's insane. And especially for anti-barrier champions, High Cal, rewind rounds, and basically anything in this slot is incredible. You can literally shoot, and I am not exaggerating, 30 to 40 bullets on one single anti-barrier champion, and they will not be able to do a single damn thing about it. It will crack shields almost instantly. It'll keep doming them in the head. You won't run out of ammo. You won't need to reload. It's just absurd. Rewind rounds, aka wee-woo rounds, probably like one of the most slept-on perks in this entire game. I don't know why people don't absolutely love this perk, because every time I use the scout and I do it, like, let's say Nightfall helps, I absolutely love it. I enjoy the hell out of it, and you should too. And if you don't have a Vision of Confluence... Oh, by the way, also TIMELOST, so you can roll ADEPT mods too. Let's remember that little tidbit as well. Yeah, if you don't have this gun, go into VOG, go get it. What the hell are you doing with your life? I believe you actually have one more chance to get this before Witch Queen starts, while it's Confluence challenge mode. So you have a shot to get this before it's not gone, but like, come on, nobody, like, most people are not gonna be doing Master VOG when Witch Queen comes out. Let's be honest. So go get this immediately. Best scout in the game. Don't at me, Nightwatch players. Suck it. Okay, moving on. Finally, we've arrived to bows. As most people know who watch me, bows are probably my favorite weapon in the game in terms of primary use. I just love them. They're great damage. They have great perks. They're a great champion utility weapon. They're just fun as hell. And they are really, really useful in a ton of in-game content. So I enjoy the hell out of them. So I don't know how bows are going to match up with anti-barrier in regards to, like, are you going to be able to one-shot a barrier shield? Is it going to be two-shot? It could one-shot. Maybe that's why they buffed bow damage this season overall. I'm not sure. If it can one-shot a barrier shield, you know, with a charged shot, then I think they'll be extremely good. If they can't, scouts will probably be the #1 option, but we'll see. We'll see. But if you're a bow enthusiast like me, I wanted to mention the best bows in the game to use in terms of overall and champions. So starting off with kinetic again, you have Biting Winds. You can get this from VOUCHSAFE on Europa, so you can farm for it. Make sure you get Explosive Head, by the way. Any bow that has Explosive Head in the game is automatically better than any other bow that does not have it. It's just fact, okay? It's fact. So, Biting Winds, it can roll Explosive Head. You can farm it out in VOUCHSAFE. If you don't want to do Garden of Salvation, which I personally don't, the cure to insomnia. That raises the cure to insomnia, okay? If you don't want to do Biting Winds, or you happen to have the other counterpart to it, which is the Garden of Salvation bow. Now, I don't have one, as mentioned, so let me pull it up right here. Accrued Redemption. It can also roll Explosive Head. You don't need to know much more other than that. It can also roll, I believe, Archer's Tempo, so you can get that combo there together, which would obviously be solid. But these are the top two options for a kinetic bow. I think if you're not going with a bow with Explosive Head, you're doing it wrong, in my opinion, which is why I will not be recommending the old Surfboard, because as far as I know, it cannot roll Explosive Head unless they have updated it. So, yeah, don't bring a Surfboard to a GM. Before I go into energy bows, I just wanted to mention, yes, I am aware that exotic bows are also really good. In particular, the whatchamacallit, I can't find it on Blind. Tigre's Divination is kind of absurd, at least for solo runs, right? Tigre's Divination is super solid for clearing ad waves because of just the combo of proccing your explosion, then killing an enemy, and then everything just explodes around you like a Michael Bay movie. It is really good, though it does take up an exotic slot, so that's why I just don't think it's a top choice unless you're doing something like a hard carry or a solo, you know, stuff like that. Or maybe if you're going incredibly underlight in, let's say, like Day 1 Master Nightfall, and you just need help clearing ads faster, then it could be a solid option. But aside from that, yeah, you have Trinity Ghoul. Yeah, I can't recommend this, man. If I even dare say, yeah, you could use this gun, people are gonna be like, excuse me, you only say that because you clearly use Shatter Throat to level. I don't. That was a joke. And then we have Lemon Arc. F this bow. It can rot in hell. I don't care. Nerf it into the ground, please and thank you. I will never recommend this. Okay, bye. Let's move on to legendary bows. Quick honorary mention to WOLFTONE Draw. It's the bow from this current season that you can still get on the Emerald Machine. It is not my top choice, however, it is still a really solid bow to get, especially if you can roll double perks on these trees like I have right here. So it can roll Archer's Tempo, Shoot the Loot, Dragonfly, Frenzy. Again, Explosive Head is always number one, but this comes as a close second just because it can roll several good things like you see on screen here. That's my honorary mention. Let's go to the main event. For Void, you have Imperial Needle, and that's it, unfortunately. It can roll Frenzy, and that's it, unfortunately. It's not that bad of a bow. I'm just being sarcastic. However, I'm a little bit salty that they never brought back Subtle Calamity, which would have been, by a mile, the best bow in the game for Void, and maybe overall if it still had its original perks. But Imperial Needle is a decent option for Void. Then we've got Tyranny of Heaven, which can roll Explosive Head or Dragonfly, but Explosive Head is definitely much better. It is the best solar bow in the game, not counting Tiku's Divination, because that's kind of a little different thing, as I mentioned with that earlier. But Tyranny is extremely solid, has Explosive Head, highly recommended. And finally, the best bow in the game, in my opinion, Arsenic Bite, which can roll Explosive Head and Dragonfly together, and can also roll Explosive Head Rampage if you don't want these together on the same bow. Arc bow, it feels so smooth, so good, does tons of damage. Explosive Head, what more could you want, honestly? Like, you might as well just, maybe Wolfpack rounds. Yeah, give it Wolfpack rounds, that'll make it better. Other than that, perfect bow, fantastic. Unfortunately, the only way to get it is a world drop, so Get Lucky, Banshee, or Zur, which is pretty much Get Lucky on any of them. So, look out for Zur sales, look out for Banshee sales, and hope for the best. If you get Explosive Head, 100% keep it, rock it, you will love it, and enjoy it for the rest of your life. So that is it for champion-related weapons that I would recommend getting / using in Witch Queen until we know, obviously, the rest of the artifact mods, and once the glaive is actually a weapon in the game, then I'll do an updated video if needed. Until then, hope you guys enjoyed, and hope this helps you, and if it does, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 20k for Witch Queen, maybe. It's kind of a tall order, but, you know, gotta get there somehow. And, yeah, notification bell, comment, like, all that nonsense. It really does help, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Goodbye.